हीना मया कल्पसमापभूः तासाक्षमा प्रेष्ठतमेन नीता मयैव वृन्दावनगोचरेण क्षणार्धवत्ता पुनरङ्गतासाम् हीना मया कल्पसमापभूः तास्ताक्षपा प्रेष्ठतमेन नीता मयैव वृन्दावनगोचरेण क्षणार्धवत्ता पुनरङ्गतासाम् हीना मया कल्पसमापभूः
वृन्दावनगोचरेण
तास्ताक्षपा प्रेष्ठतमेन नीता मयैव वृन्दावनगोचरेण रागावत्ता पुनरङ्गतासाम् हीना मया कल्पसमाबभूः
तास्ताक्षपा प्रेष्ठतमेन नीता मयैव वृन्दावनगोचरेण क्षणार्धवत्ता पुनरङ्गतासाम् हीना मया कल्पसमाबभूः
Tata, all those, Shabaha, nice, Prishtatamena, with the most dearly beloved, Nita, spent, Maya, with me, Eva, indeed, Vrindavan, in Vrindavan, Gocharena, who can be known, Shana, a moment, Ardhavat, like half, Ta, those very nice, Puna, again, Anga, Year, Asam, for the gopis, Hina, bereft, Maya, of me, Kalpa, a day of Brahma, 4,320,000, sorry, 4,320,000,000 years. Samaha, equal. Babhu, became. Translation purport by the following associated part. Dear Uttama, all those nights that the gopis spent with me, their most beloved, most dearly beloved, in the land of Vrindavan, seemed to pass in less than a moment. Bereft of my association, however, the gopis felt that those same nights dragged on forever, as if each night were equal to the day of Brahma. The Siddharth Swami comments as follows. The gopis suffered extreme gopis suffered extreme anxiety in the absence of Lord Krishna. And though outwardly appearing bewildered, they actually achieved the highest perfectional stage of samadhi. Their consciousness was intensely and intimately attached to Lord Krishna. And by such Krishna consciousness, their own bodies seemed very far away from them, even though people normally consider their body to be their closest possession. In fact, the gopis did not think about their own existence. Although young woman normally considers her husband and children to be her dearmost possessions, the gopis did not even consider the existence of their so-called families, nor would they think of the world or life after that. Indeed, they were not at all aware of these things, just like great sages. Sorry. Okay. Just like great sages who become detached from the names and forms of the material world, the gopis could not think of anything because they were wrapped in loving remembrance of Lord Krishna. Just as rivers enter the ocean, similarly the gopis completely merged into consciousness of Lord Krishna through intense love. Actually, that's the exact same next verse. Does the day of Brahma seem like a single moment for the gopis when Lord Krishna was present with them, and the single moment seemed like a day of Brahma when Lord Krishna was absent? The Krishna consciousness of the gopis is the perfection of spiritual life, and the symptoms of such perfection are described here. Om Gyan Timirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhakta.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So today we continue our discussion on the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where actually these are the verses which actually continue the 10th canto's mood very intensely. And we are discussing over these 4 verses which reveal Krishna's heart to Uddhava. So, I ask you to run it on this. Wait, we have those trees. So yesterday we discussed briefly about the plight of Uddhava, wherein he saw that he is experiencing what would probably be the worst test of faith. That for Uddhava, he has lost materially and spiritually, apparently everything. Materially, his entire dynasty has been destroyed, and spiritually, the Lord has been felled by an insignificant warrior, an insignificant wound. So it is an incredible test of faith. And at that time, when he sees the Lord and he speaks to the Lord, so he's asking desperately, please guide me, please remove me from the ignorance. And we see how the Bhagavatam, it has intense emotion of the characters, but that is clothed in complex philosophy and vocabulary, both. So it's not so easy to understand. But we can understand the content better by looking at the context. The context is illuminated by the context. And here, what Uddhava is being guided towards is that he is being reminded that there's another time when he had seen apparently the Lord abandoning someone who was greatly loved, who greatly loved the Lord. And Krishna is speaking of that occasion to guide Uddhava. So now Uddhava is being reminded of the gopis now. And that same theme is being continued. Yesterday's verse was talking about the utter heartbreak of the gopis when Krishna Mathuram Pranite, when Krishna went to Mathura. And the gopis were just devastated completely. So now this verse is continuing to describe the plight of the gopis. And he's saying that for them, when they were with Krishna, in the last Leela, they spent time with him. One night, Krishna extended it to become as big as Brahma's night. And yet it seemed so tiny to them. The time just went very quickly. Because they were with Krishna. And then after that, when Krishna is gone, one moment seems like a millennium to them. So, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas have concluded that in the entire Bhagavatam, this is where Krishna is manifesting the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Krishna, while there are some verses which point to his Krishna Varnam, Krishna, that kind of verses are there. But this is the verse where the mood, the internal mood, not so much the external mission, but the internal mood is being described. Which verse does this remind us of? Tastakshapa Prishtavenanita. That one moment is like a millennium. Which is the verse of Mahaprabhu? Yes, Yugaitam Nimeshena Chakshusha Prabhushaitam. So, Yugaitam Nimeshena. Now, in one sense, the Bhagavatam takes a very peculiar strategy to address the problem of suffering, the problem of pain, the problem of distress. That is a problem for every theistic tradition in the world. If there is a good God, why is there suffering in the world? And especially, not just generically why there is suffering, why do the people who are good and decent, why do the people who are devoted to God suffer? And the Bhagavad broadly, why is there suffering? In one sense, the answer can be given through philosophy. And the philosophy is centered on karma. But the Bhagavatam doesn't talk so much about karma. It mentions karma a few times, but most of the time mentions of karma are more in terms of karma daiva netrena or kama karma, Basically, it talks about either the governing principle of existence or the karma bija in our hearts. The karma, in terms of the law of karma, is not the focus of the Bhakti. And none of that it is there. But the Bhagavatam doesn't try to go so much into the philosophy as it gives pastimes. And the pastimes are not so much about just the Leela of the Lord. That Leela is there, but how others have also suffered. And others have actually suffered more. In fact, that is the overall theme. Now, Uddhava himself knows, in the context of the pastors of the Lord, that his love, his devotion was actually insignificant as compared to the devotion of the gopis. And there's a Uddhava Kund in Vrindavan, where Uddhava hopes that he can get some of the devotion of the gopis by being present. So his devotion by no means is small, it is great. But as compared to the gopis, his devotion pales in comparison. And Krishna is reminding Uddhava that even the gopis suffered. But the way the suffering is being described is that there was the ecstasy of union and then there is the agony of separation. And in general, love has both these extremes. See, sometimes we talk about becoming steady, becoming calm, becoming peaceful, and we have dualities, and we need to go beyond dualities. And that is true, no doubt. However, bhakti especially, it is not so much about divesting our emotions. Now, divest means like if you have invested some, divest is the opposite of invest. Like we invested our money, and if I in particular stocks, and if the stocks are getting lost, then we divest our money. So most of this Jnana Marga is about divesting our emotions. Divesting our emotions from the world. And although Brahma is considered to be real, Brahma is not a place where emotions have much space. So bhakti is actually about investing our emotions. Investing our emotions in Krishna. And in fact, the perfection of bhakti is that the investing of our emotions is so great. So we could say, in one sense, there's a progression for a spiritual seeker. There is material duality. And then once come to the Brahman realization, one becomes more steady. There is material duality. When we get the desirable, we don't get the desirable. At the Brahman level, there is neutrality. But then above the Brahman level is the spiritual or specifically devotional level. And there, again, there is duality. In fact, this duality is bigger. There is the ecstasy of union. And then there is the agony of separation. And those two states are described over here. The ecstasy of union, the agony of separation. And as this duality is going on and on, the gopis' emotional plight is described. It's like a churning ocean with massive waves which are just coming and going in their part. And while all this is happening, the gopis are immersed more and more in Krishna. So, what is the relevance of all this further? In one sense, Krishna can sometimes seem heartless. And that is often the accusation that the gopis. The gopis say that we gave out everything for you. And Krishna, how could you just give us up and go away? Are you so heartless? So it is Krishna by revealing his heart. He's saying, I understand what you're going through. I know what you're going through. And I care deeply. Generally, between in any relationship, whenever there is anything we do for the other person, there is some contribution. Then there is some expectation. The expectation is of some kind of reciprocation. So whenever we do something, say if you're talking politely with someone, and that person doesn't even look at us, acts as if we don't even exist, we think, what's wrong with you? So when we are practicing bhakti, we expect some kind of reciprocation from the Lord. And the reciprocation can be in many different ways. But we expect some reciprocation. So imagine from one person, there is a lot of contribution. And there is no reciprocation at all, apparently. Then we may think, is this person heartless? Does this person not care at all? So, like that, the gopis naturally have this question, Krishna, why did you abandon us go away like that? Do you not care for that, or do you not have a heart? Do you not see how much we are suffering? And Uddhava also has the same question over here. Krishna's departure, which is imminent now, is going to be devastating. And it's before the departure, there is devastation. So now, amid this devastation in the Yadu dynasty, Krishna is reminding Uddhava that there have been others in the past who have been devastated. Now, in general, for us, see, distress is universal. There is suffering, just the presence of pain is a problem. But if you are suffering, we are in pain alone. That's even greater suffering. It's like, say, if we get flu and everybody is happy and everybody is maybe going for outing, we feel miserable. If we get some flu and we find, okay, there's a COVID pandemic and everybody is down. Okay, it's not that we wanted everyone to suffer. It's more that we didn't want to suffer alone. So, that basically we don't feel singled out. We don't feel singled out. If we are dealing with some senior devotee and there is authority, and that authority chastises everyone, okay, then we don't feel bad. But if everybody is very kind and sweet, then they chastise only us, then we feel, why am I being singled out like that? So, what the Bhagavatam is saying over here is that your suffering is not alone. But if the worst is, it is not only we are singled out, but we are singled out unfairly. Say, if everyone, there's a big service to be done and everyone had messed up the service, and everybody is being chastised, then okay, if we are not chastised, we feel bad. But if we had done our best and still things didn't work out, and then there's either a misunderstanding or it's just unfair, then also it becomes unfair, it becomes unbearable. So, suffering itself is a problem, but suffering alone or suffering unfairly, it becomes even more unbearable. Basically, when we say unfair, what does it mean? When we go through life, we all create some structure of meaning around us. Structure of meaning means This is how we make sense of life. This is how we make sense of what is happening in our world. So it is, if we have a worldview in which we can make sense of suffering, it's like, okay, sometimes people have somebody behaves very rudely with us. And then we need to make some sense. Why is this person being like this? And then we come to know maybe that person is going through some difficulty in their lives. They lost a loved one. Okay, I understand why they're doing this. So we need to make sense of suffering. So in one sense, the structure of meaning helps us to see suffering as meaningful. So suffering is difficult to bear, but suffering, when it is within our structure of meaning, that is bearable. That is somewhat bearable. But when the suffering is outside our structure of meaning, it becomes unbearable. So, what does it mean outside our structure of meaning? That means we just can't make sense of it. And okay, why did this happen? If the other person is also in a very good condition, is mentally and socially good, and we think our relationship is going well, and then that person suddenly behaves terribly. Just, what is this? Should I even be in this relationship? What kind of person is this? That becomes unbearable. If some people are short-tempered and you get used to them being short-tempered, then okay, it's not a pleasant to be in that relationship, but it's possible. Okay, we get used to it. But if a person is even-tempered and only because they're short-tempered and for no reason, then it becomes very difficult to bear. But even more damaging is when suffering destroys our entire structure of meaning. That is totally unbearable. It's there is pain that is caused. Say, we're walking along the road and suddenly somebody attacks us and beats us up and steals our money. It's terrible. But okay, we come to know there are a lot of homeless people over here in this part of the city that's crime. It's bad, but we can make sense of it. But if that person wants our money and they're ready to give the money and still that person beats us, we say, why are you doing this? Maybe we come to know that person hates our ethnicity. There's racial bias, there's racial hatred because of that person's doing it. Okay. That it's terrible, but at least we can make sense of it. But if somebody just like the school shooters, they just go and just nonchalantly just go to school and kill anyone and everyone. Now it has just become familiar in life. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's intelligent. It's horrible with something like that. When suffering comes in a way that destroys our entire structure of meaning. Not only, okay, this particular thing falls outside. It's like suppose somebody is a doctor and they're treating some patients. And then they see a particular sickness that they can neither diagnose with that particular medical method, nor can they treat it. Say, okay, what is going on over here? Scientists will dismiss that as medical mystery. But if they find that it's not just one, but hundreds and thousands of people suffering like that, and they're all suffering like that, then what happens is does this, if I'm practicing allopathy, does allopathy even work? Does it even make sense? Maybe it should be giving up allopathy itself. Then it becomes a big crisis for the doctor. What am I supposed to do? So if one's entire structure of meaning, it collapses. If something happens, say one disease we're not able to treat, another disease we're not able to treat, third disease we're not able to treat. And then we find that there are There are thousands and thousands of people suffering and we can do nothing about it. We can make no sense of it. And the doctor said, what am I supposed to do about it? Should I be even practicing this? So this is a situation that life can bring us to. So for Parikshit, when he is cursed, immediately he is able to place his suffering within the structure of meaning. The way he does that is, he doesn't think his suffering is just in the sense of being fair. Because he's a king and he knows the principles of fairness. The principles of fairness are that the punishment should be proportional to the crime. And putting a dead snake temporarily around the neck of someone, and a punishment for that is to have a live snake around your neck for 7 days. And after that 7 days, it will bite you. Not literally, but figuratively. He's cursed to die in 7 days. And why the Shringi cursed him to die in 7 days? Not immediately. He could have done that. That's because Shringi wants to cause maximum pain to Parikshit Maharaj. And for a person who is powerful, the most painful situation is a situation of powerlessness. When you have 7 days, you know you're going to die, and you can do nothing about it. Just suffer. So he doesn't just want to take away his life, he wants to take away his power even before taking away his life. Because Shringi is believed that Parikshit has abused his power. Actually, it is Shringi who has abused his power by cursing him disproportionately. But the point is, still, even when suffering doesn't make sense, Parikshit is able to make sense of suffering. He says, I was attached to the world, and the Lord wanted me to become detached from the world. The Lord wanted me to focus on taking up his bhakti, just becoming absorbed in him. So, what he did was, he was able to place the suffering within a structure of meaning. Okay, this is the Lord's plan, this is what I should be doing. Now, we could say that, can we just apply this to everything? Any suffering that comes in our life, the Lord wants me to become detached. So then, detached from what? Because Parikshit Maharaj was as a king doing devotional service, isn't it? So he was, through his royal responsibilities, protecting the kingdom from Kali. There was no king as powerful and virtuous as him. So did the Lord want him to give up his service? Well, the Lord wanted him to take another service. That was appearing in the Bhagavatam, that the Bhagavatam would manifest. But the point is that how exactly, when some suffering does it seem to fit in our structure of meaning, then what do we do? So the normal structure of meaning is, if you do good, you will get good. If you do bad, you will get bad. And there is some utility to that structure of meaning. But the nature of the world is, sometimes you can do good and will get bad. And sometimes people do bad and will get good. And when that happens, so basically, this is my structure of meaning. I have a structure of meaning, and there is a suffering which is coming on me, but I cannot place its origin. The suffering, I can place it within my structure of meaning, or it comes from outside the structure of meaning. Or sometimes it can be such a big suffering that it just drives away my structure. That means I am here, and the structure of meaning has just been swept away. So life just doesn't make any sense at all. like Shakespeare in Hamlet says that life is a tale told by an idiot with much sound and fury and no meaning. Now, why does he say that? If you look at Hamlet's story, it seems utterly unfair. Many of the stories of Shakespeare, they are comedies, but they are also tragedies. They end in tragedy in one sense. And when this happens, this is where the Lord gives Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga is a very interesting term that Prabhupada uses frequently in his Bhagavata commentaries. And sometimes people ask this question that, is Buddhi Yoga another path? Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Is Buddhi Yoga another path? Is it another path? What do you think? No. Buddhi Yoga is not another path. Buddhi Yoga is actually a stretchable term. Stretchable term means that at different places it means different things. First time the word Buddhi Yoga comes is in 239 in the Gita. Esha te abhita samke buddhi yogi to imam buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandhan prahasyasi. So there Krishna is talking about Buddhi Yoga as Sankhya applied to action. So broadly, it is referring to, if you follow what comes up, it's Karma Yoga. Now, another place it comes is in 1857. 1857 is मयि चेतसकर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्परः बुद्धियोगमुपाश्रित्य मच्चित्तः सततं भव. Thank you. So, it's saying Buddhi Yoga is basically Bhakti Yoga. He's saying that Chetasa Sarva Karmani, that with all your work, in all your consciousness fixed on me, Mani Sanyasya Matpara, Buddhi Yoga Upashritya. In this way, with the intelligence, take shelter of me. Buddhi Yoga Upashritya, Machitta Satkandava. Now, in between, this comes in 10-10. Tesham Satyayuktanam, Jidam Priti Purvakam, Tadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenamam Upayantite. Now, here Buddhi Yoga is somewhat connected with Bhakti Yoga, but the connection is a little complex. Here Buddhi is a component of Bhakti Yoga. That means, but in 10-10, Buddhi Yoga can mean two things. It means one thing specifically, but let's look at two broad meanings. One is the Buddhi to do yoga. There's the Buddhi to do yoga. And the second is yoga that gives Buddhi. The compound word can be resolved in two different ways. The Buddhi to do yoga, Buddhi yoga, and yoga that gives Buddhi. The practice of yoga will give us intentions. So in the context of 10.10, this is the primary meaning. Krishna says, if you are practicing bhakti, sham bhajitam priti purvakam. If you are practicing bhakti affectionately, then dadami, I will give it. What? Buddhi yogam. I'll give you buddhi yoga. What will happen by that? Ye namam, by which you will come to me. Ye namam upayantite. So when we are put in situations that just don't make sense, at that time, how are we to act? How can we understand? Is this Krishna's plan? Or what is Krishna's plan in this? How are we to figure that out? And how are we to move onwards towards Krishna? That is the intelligence that Krishna gives us. So, Prabhupada, when he was doing various services or when he was trying out various things in serving Krishna, we often hear of Prabhupada saying that impossible is a word in the foolish dictionary. Prabhupada said that, especially when the Chaitanya Charitamrita marathon was going on. And in 2 months, Prabhupada wanted the devotees to polish the books. But there are many times when Prabhupada accepted that some things are not working out. Prabhupada was trying to share Krishna Bhakti in India, it didn't work out. Prabhupada just left it. Prabhupada said that if we have opened a center, closing the center is a disgrace. Prabhupada started League of Devotees, and that was his first project. And he was invited at that time, I think the mayor of that city, some big celebrity, and it had come in the news also. And Prabhupada just walked away from there. Prabhupada then started a political party, in God we trust. And as one disciple, Balwant Prabhupada said, you can become the next president of America. And then, after Prabhupada, Prabhupada, are you no longer enthusiastic about the political party? Prabhupada said, I'm enthusiastic, but don't ask me for any money. So the idea was Prabhupada decided that the amount of investment that is required for campaigning, he said that's not a worthwhile use of. So Prabhupada, there are many projects that Prabhupada put on the shelf. He shelved the projects. So there are things that did not work. And Prabhupada accepted that. But there are some things which Prabhupada persisted on. So that is Bhakti Yoga. Now what are the choices that will take us toward Krishna? What are the choices that won't take us toward Krishna? So Bhakti Yoga is the intelligence by which even in situations that are taking us away from Krishna, we find a way toward Krishna. We are able to make sense. Okay, what is happening? Why is this happening? What is Krishna's plan in this? So, I conclude with 2 short points here. One is that amidst adversity, amidst some big distress that comes, it is very simplistic to say this is Krishna's plan. Now, why is it too simplistic? I'll discuss this elaborately today evening when we are talking about Sita's abduction. That when things happen in the world, sometimes they may be because of my mistake, they may be because of somebody else's manipulation. So, can I really say that something is my mistake is Krishna's plan? Can I say that somebody who deliberately schemed to do something, so they did it with their evil mentality, can I say this is Krishna's plan? It is complicated. Can I say it is not Krishna's plan? That is also complicated. So rather than saying this is Krishna's plan, there is a more nuanced way. There is some plan of Krishna even in this. That bad people may do bad things, good people may do bad things, and those things are still bad. But Krishna's plan is good enough even to work through this. So there is some plan of Krishna in this. Now, what exactly is the plan? And how is that plan going to work? That has to be figured out. And that is often not to be figured out with our intelligence. Because with our buddhi, it does not work. There are times, of course, when we need to use our buddhi. So, here I said that Bhakti Yoga has 2 distinct meanings. One is the buddhi to do yoga. So, this is logic. We are meant to use logic in bhakti. So, there's some logic. Okay, Prabhupada said if you want to open a center, open it in big cities, not small cities. Prabhupada said that if you want to go and preach, Prabhupada said the devotees were sometimes going to nightclubs and doing kirtans. Prabhupada said, if you're going there, it's a dangerous territory. You have to see, are people likely to become devotees over here? If not, there's no point in going over there. So there's some logic over there. But bhakti is not just the domain of logic, it is also the domain of magic. Magic means, basically, magic, what we call as magic, that doesn't make sense. There's a magic show. You have a hat, you take out the hat and the rabbit comes out. Hey, where does the rabbit come from? That's magic. So when things don't make sense, we call them as magic, broadly speaking. So bhakti has an element of magic to it. And when we are going through this, it does not seem like magic. It can seem utterly terrible. But we have to wait for the magic of Krishna to manifest. So for the gopis, how did that magic manifest? For Uddhava, how was that magic going to manifest? When there was utter devastation. So bhakti is a combination of logic and magic. Logic is where we use our intelligence, and magic is where we surrender our intelligence. Now, both are required and both have to be done at the appropriate time. There is, in our philosophy's core itself, achintya means. Achintya means inconceivable. Inconceivable means we have to surrender our intelligence. But that doesn't mean anything and everything is achintya. That does not mean Jiva Swami doesn't write elaborate books establishing the core principles of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And there is solid reasoning underlying that. So, Bhakti has both these elements. Krishna will be giving the Uddhava Gita, which is an elaborate philosophy to explain. Now, is he saying, giving all this explanation to say that ultimately it's unexplainable? No. There is explanation given for us to understand when some things will be unexplainable. So, how there is logic and magic in bhakti, and how both of them come together in the ultimate sense in the transaction of love between the gopis and Krishna, how it comes out in the Uddhava Gita with Krishna consoling Uddhava, that we'll be discussing in our last session tomorrow. So let's summarize today what we discussed. We continue our discussion of yesterday was more of the emotional life of Uddhava. Today we are moving more towards the analysis. So with respect to today our focus was on making sense of the problem of suffering. So we discussed that the Bhagavatam's approach is suffering. It doesn't use so much philosophy, especially of karma. That is not so much there. What it does, it gives examples. Example of others, they suffered more, and they suffered not just more, they often suffered more and more unfairly than us. Because we discussed how suffering itself is not the problem. When we are suffering alone and suffering unfairly, that is the problem. So it's almost like there are many others in the boat we are in. That we will say, does that really give consolation? Well, some consolation. And then the second part we discussed is suffering and the structure of meaning. That we need to somehow be able to make sense of suffering. So when we face suffering, there can be suffering which is within our structure of meaning. Structure of meaning is the cause and the effect. We are able to make sense. There is suffering which can be just doesn't make sense. What is the cause? Why is this happening to me? How will that cause leads to that effect? And there is suffering which can even completely destroy our structure of meaning. So we can sweep out our structure of meaning. So when this happens, it's like, especially for this example, is disease makes one question entire system of medicine. This is a very, very difficult thing to hear. And this is what is sometimes called the dark night of the soul. The entire framework is lost. So at that time, what is to be done? That is the time when Buddhi Yoga. We stay connected with the Lord with affection. Vedam Priti Purvakam. And then we normally use Buddhi to do yoga. This is the domain of logic. And this is the normal conduct of bhakti. In normal situations, We are all meant to use our intelligence. But then there are exceptional situations when the sheer practice of yoga itself will give us buddhi. And that time, this is the domain of magic. This is extraordinary situations. Extraordinary means, especially an extraordinary bhakti, where it is seemingly meaningless suffering is there. So it is times of meaningless suffering that very deeply question our faith, challenge our faith, and that's what we need to be able to resolve. That's what the Bhagavatam does. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any question or comment?
So here, what was Uddhava facing? His whole structure of meaning is being shaken because of.
Yeah, you see, to see God Himself, that Krishna, as the Bhagavatam will say, who has gone to the abode of Yam, abode of death, and brought the dead back alive from there. How can that Krishna be felt by an insignificant mood? It is that when the Yadus are fighting with each other, so Krishna is there, and Krishna comes in between and tries to stop the Yadus. They just push Krishna away. And Krishna falls back and they chop off each other's heads. So, is Krishna not able to stop this? What is going on over here? So, that's the whole structure of meaning has been shattered by that.
So, regarding gopis, which of these categories is their
Yeah, the
agony?
gopis are driven by love for Krishna. And whenever we love someone, we expect some reciprocation from the object of love. So when that person does not reciprocate, then we may lose faith in that person. There are many ways, when somebody in relationships, there is heartbreak, which is bad, but there is betrayal, which is worse. So heartbreak can be because of various reasons. Let's say till that person dies, or that person is forced to go away from us. That's heartbreak. So the person goes away for various reasons. But here it's like the person abandons or rejects us. So betrayal is much, much more difficult to bear. And when the gopis see Krishna going away, they see it's not just a heartbreak, they feel it's a betrayal. And betrayal, in our tradition, especially the Bhagavatam, is focusing more on giving up relationships in this world and just going away and connecting with the Lord. But in Manusmriti and other places, where it's talking more about functioning in the world, the specific ethical codes may be different, but betrayal is considered a terrible, terrible sin. In fact, Lakshmi tells Sugriva that ingratitude is the worst of sins. So what happens is when there is betrayal, in the face of betrayal, there can be various things. We lose faith. It could be in that person. This color is okay. That's bad enough. So the verse is we lose faith in our own capacity to judge other people. If this person fooled me, then anybody can fool me. Can I even trust my judgment? And worse is we lose faith in all people, where nobody is trustworthy. That is where a person becomes extremely lonely. Because they feel so betrayal can completely scar a person for life. And it's a very complex journey to recover from betrayal. It can happen to anyone. It can be betrayal often used in, it may sometimes be used in military contexts. When somebody is fighting a war And suddenly the person next to them who's supposed to fight with them comes and stabs them. We find that that person is being bribed by the opposite. Betrayal can be in a marital relationship. Mm. Betrayal can be in a spiritual relationship, where somebody finds that one spiritual authority or guide or whoever, that person, instead of seeking our own welfare, was only seeking their own welfare. And there are people who can get caught in cults. And when they come out of those cults, it's like they have to reconstruct their entire structure of meaning. It's extremely difficult. And we can talk about cults in the third person sense, but there can be cults, cultish like groups formed within our movement. And especially in some. So betrayal is a terrible, terrible wrongdoing. So here they are feeling as if, you could say, worse than all is the Lord has betrayed us. That how does one deal with that? The Bali Maharaj gives whatever Vishnu asks him for, Vamandev asks him for. He gives even his own head. And what does the Lord do? Lord has him arrested. Says, you didn't honor him. How more would I have honored you ever? I did everything for you. And he somehow maintains his sweet. That the demons who are with him, they are so indignant. Now they know fighting against Vishnu and Vishnu means dying. But they feel the way their master has been treated is so outrageously unfair that they have to fight, even if it means they will die. That is the magnitude of unfairness over there. But Bali Maharaj has faith. He says, don't do it. The time is not favorable for us. He does not, he understands that they can't understand. So he doesn't say the Lord's will is inconceivable. Doesn't go into that way. The Lord has some plan which will be revealed. What does he say at that time? He says the time is not favorable for us. And then even the demons understand that there are times which can be unfavorable. So that's how we pacify them. So is it a betrayal? No. The Lord actually becomes his doorkeeper thereafter. The Lord takes away the kingdom, but when he doesn't lose faith in the Lord, the Lord gives himself to him. So the point of the gopis also feel betrayed. The Lord has abandoned us. How could he have abandoned us like that? So that's the gopis' plight.
Like Uddhava is a personal associate of the Lord. We find that like in Srila Prabhupada's case and even in the case of Bali Maharaj as you mentioned, because they had unflinching faith in the Lord. Even such a kind of great crisis when they was put in such kind of suffering, such kind of crisis. Then also that impeccable faith was there, and they could understand. I mean, how the Lord reciprocated later. That could happen. Like Srila Prabhupada also, he got heart attacks and so many failures apparently when he was trying to preach in the West also, in the beginning and when before also. But Srila Prabhupada never doubted on Krishna. He did not undergo that. The test of doubt. Apparently, in the sense that he may not be knowing the reason how things are and all that, but that faith did not get at all disturbed by that. So in this case of Uddhava, what you said, like it's a test of doubt. Is it like Uddhava is actually getting into the test of doubt?
There are two different things over here. See, there is a transcendental perspective, and there is you could say, when the Lord comes to this world, there is another Leela Prevail. The Lord performs a pastime. So when Bhishma is shooting arrows at Arjuna, some of the arrows hit Krishna, and there's blood that comes from his body. Now we understand that blood does not wound him, but the blood is there. And Krishna could have just said, no, the arrows won't affect me at all. But Krishna lets the blood manifest. So when to see the transcendence of a person and when to see the fact that they are in this world, that is not so easy to understand. So say if some senior devotee is very sick and they are in pain because of sickness, should we say that, they're so advanced, they're not suffering any pain? Well, not really. When Prabhupada had a very prolonged sickness, and sometimes during the phase of sickness, some drool would come out of his mouth. And some devotees, they said, this drool comes out of Prabhupada's mouth. It's like the ecstasy, this ecstasy manifesting. Like there's this script, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ecstatic, all kind of bodily changes would happen. They would appear like deformations of the body. So, drool would also come out, mucus would come out. So, this is ecstasy. When Ramakrishna asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, just see. He said that how foolish they are thinking. Prabhupada, this is the body, this is the plight of the body, this is what happens to everyone. So we don't have to necessarily see everything only from the transcendental perspective. If somebody is in pain, we don't have to think, oh, that consciousness is transcendental. Then wait, how can I serve in this situation? So it is the service attitude that's important. There is in the TKG's diary, when at one time Prabhupada then asked, why is this happening to me? In one place, and then even when that cow hits Prabhupada in the streets of Delhi, right now Delhi is going through record-breaking temperature highs. It's burning hot. So that time also it was nothing not as hot, but was there, and Prabhupada just was hit by a car. So Prabhupada says in election, asking why is this happening to me? So in terms of not knowing why something is happening, that can happen even to pure devotees. Prabhupada himself in his song immortalizes it when he says, Ache kichu karjatabe ehi anumate. I guess. Now Prabhupada said, don't speculate. Anuman means speculate. So I guess there must be some plan to that. So Prabhupada, more to reconcile all this, Prabhupada says that even a pure devotee can be perplexed, but a devotee is not discouraged. Perplexed means, I don't know what Krishna's plan is. I don't know how Krishna wants me to serve. Discouraged means that I don't want to serve. Now, of course, when Prabhupada made this categorical differentiation, everybody is perplexed but not discouraged. But there are times when Prabhupada even says, in some senior disciples fell away or left him, he says, Prabhupada, this is very discouraging news. One time, a reporter asked him that, Swamiji, many movements like this start with a founder, and the founder departs, it all collapses. What do you think will happen to your movement? Will something will happen to your movement? And Prabhupada's reply was, why are you discouraging me? So yeah, I'm not discouraging, I'm just asking a question. But your question is discouraging, Prabhupada. So now, Prabhupada is a person who didn't get discouraged through so many far bigger adversities. So what was question discouraging? So the point is that there is a transcendental vision and there is a human vision. So now to reduce the spiritual guru to the human vision, that is wrong. Like Arche Vishnu Shilashi, that we don't consider the deity to be stone. That is true. But suppose the deity is made of wood and we find that the altar is flooded. Will we not remove the deity from there? They don't see it as stone. Oh, don't see it as mundane material. Yeah. We shouldn't see that, but underlying both of these is seva bhava, is service attitude. So we focus not so much on the transcendental vision, not so much on the material vision, we focus on the service attitude. So if somebody is in distress, we should focus on the seva bhava. How can I serve at this particular? So if the deity is made of particular material that will get damaged by water, then we remove it from that place. That's seva bhava. So therefore, the point we are trying to do in this discussion now, did Uddhava have these kind of emotions? As if the Bhagavatam is in a lot of philosophical vocabulary. The Bhagavatam does not so much go into the psychology of the characters till all the time. But there are places where it's explicitly described. For example, when Arjuna comes back after Krishna has departed and after he has failed in protecting Krishna's voice, he says that my heart is empty. I am completely shattered. It is yasya kshanaviyogena. From one moment I could not be separated. Now I'm forever separated from him. And my heart is just like a vast emptiness. So he does experience. So Yudhishthira, when he sees him, he sees externally Arjuna is affected. Now he's seeing Arjuna in a state of dejection, like he's never seen it before. That's Bhagavad explicitly says that. So, should we say that time his faith is not affected? Yes. But was he affected? Yes, he was affected. So, the point they are making over here is that when we study Shastra, our focus should be on trying to get a understanding that helps us grow in our. And sometimes, if we just elevate all the characters to the transcendental level, then we just can't connect with those characters. Okay, they're all transcendental. So, what is there? So, now some people may say the statement like these. Prabhupada said, I don't know what to do. Why is this happening to me? These are bringing Prabhupada down to mundane platform. Well, not necessarily. That's not the point. We are able to relate with Prabhupada more. And to the extent we relate with the characters, to that extent actually it becomes inspiring. So, Prabhupada does this in many places. So, for example, if you consider, basically, if you consider Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that the scripture can be studied at many different levels. And I've analyzed that into 4 levels. Scripture can be studied at a literal level, just look at the story. They can be studied at the ethical level, they look at right and wrong. They can study at an allegorical level, and they can be studied at a devotional level. So, literal level, we just look at the story and enjoy the story. That's fair enough. At a devotional level, we see everything as a Lord's plan. So, for example, in this Gita, Prabhupada says Arjuna's illusion was orchestrated by Krishna. That is a devotional level mystery. But then, at the ethical level, Prabhupada actually goes both ways. In chapter 1, he says Arjuna is so thoughtful that even when there is pressure for him to fight, he is not just rushing into a fight. He is deliberating. And therefore, Arjuna is qualified to receive spiritual knowledge. And we can learn from him. Should this rush into action, we should be thoughtful. But Prabhupada seems to change that completely in chapter 2. And he says Arjuna is attached. His tears, his tears, they are a sign of ignorance, they are a sign of attachment, and everybody suffering with skin disease. And Krishna must be the Bhagavata to relieve us of the skin disease. So now, if you think about this carefully, these 3 are all contradictory. If, first of all, if it's a devotional, it's all orchestrated by Krishna, then there is no need to go into Arjuna psychology. But then there is nothing to learn, it's all orchestrated by Krishna. So, but if we want to learn something, then we can't just put everything at the devotional level or the transcendental level. We need to look at the ethical level. Prabhupada has done that. So, and at the ethical level, when we are looking at sacred characters, this is a long answer. But sacred characters, when we look at them from an ethical perspective, our focus is not who is right. It is more what is right. So what is the right principle over here? The right principle is that we should be thoughtful. And the right principle is also that we should not let multiple situations overwhelm us. So that's why Prabhupada is, of course, when he's taking the ethical perspective, he is not very definitive. Like in the Vitrasa pastime, when Vitrasa laughs, and Prabhupada says that all these stages were there. Why did Vitrasa have to laugh? If they were not finding anything objectionable, who was he? But then when Parvati curses, Prabhupada says that that none of the sages got angry over there. So why did she have to become angry? She is also faithful disciple of the Lord. So he says that he basically says that in both ways, don't judge people prematurely in a way that is not commensurate with our position. At the same time, don't condemn people, don't curse people. So Prabhupada gives us both lessons. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand these pastimes in a way that can be relatable for us.
So, Guruji, the point is what that devotionally, when we see that Uddhava has that unflinching faith in the Lord, that is to take how Bali Maharaj and how Prabhupada. But when we are trying to understand this, ethically we are trying to see.
Yes, we are looking at ethically.
Understood.
Thank you. Mantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Very good.
Chaitanya Charan Prabhu ki
Jai.
Do you save these notes? Can you share them?
This is a ethical, allegorical, devotional, and the first one was what?
Literal. So lead is the acronym. So Bhakti Thakur doesn't use this specifically acronym, obviously, but he says that the Kanishthas look for literal meanings, the Madhyamas look for non-literal meanings, and he once says appreciate the Madhyamas to be better than Kanishthas. But then he says, like he pats the Madhyamas on the back, but he says there is a level beyond it also. Don't think that yours is the highest. And he said there's transcendental level, which is where this is the maximum size to be experienced.
Madhyama will, they will take it.
They look for non-literal meanings. Now he's not taking it. It's interesting, you know, the word Madhyama he's using in a generic sense, not in the Bhakti Rasamrita sense. Like in Bengali, Kanishta Madhyamas, they are just like levels, first, second, third levels. So he's not using, so even if you see the definition of Kanishta Madhyama Uttamadhikaris, I think even the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and in the Updesham, they're not exactly the same. So he's using that just in three levels, broadly speaking. Focus in the back. Allegorical, let's say Ravan is a person, but Ravan is also plus. So the character symbolize like 6 children of another king. They are 6 children. So Prabhupada had an allegorical when or the symbolic when the symbolic was used to reject the literal. But in the symbolic, they actually had 6 children. Ravana was a historical person, but in addition to being historical, he represents them. Prabhupada said, what happened at all.
ग्रीस पूरी तो प्रभु जी बनाते हैं।
आप बनाता हूँ। अरे यार कुछ करना नहीं है ना, कल जैसा बना तो पालक तो ले और कुछ करना है। उसके बाद जो किया उसके बाद अवोकाडो लेना। अवोकाडो है ये हाँ नहीं ये वो लाइन। 2 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 33 34 35 36 37 38 39 40 41 42 43 44 45 46 47 48 49 50 51 52 53 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 63 64 65 66 67 68 69 70 71 72 73 74 75 76 77 78 79 80 81 82 83 84 85 86 87 88 89 90 91 92 93 94 95 96 97 98 99 100 101 102 103 104 105 106 107 108 109 110 111 112 113 114 115 116 117 118 119 120 121 122 123 124 125 126 127 128 129 130 131 132 133 134 135 136 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 157 158 159 1 अदरक लाया हुआ है, मंगा लो अदरक का।
कब अभी तो बनाने ही है।
और बनेंगे 11 बजे और फिर स्प्रेड में ऊपर कैरेट को ग्रेट कर देना। ये रोटी के ऑर्गेनिक लेट्स और आलू डालना है शेयर बस है। और फिर उसके बाद ग्लूकोमोटर एक बना देना। अब कर and that's all done. So फिर स्प्रेड में क्या करना है, कैरेट स्प्रेड का रेसिपी है यहाँ पर कैरेट स्प्रेड